Hello again and welcome to the show. As always, I'm Jason McNeil and this is Cup of Joe. And today on the show, I want to discuss identity politics. Now, some people may not know what identity politics is. Essentially, identity politics is the politics that works or speaks to social groups rather than individuals, right? So where you see special interest groups or any social group, whether it be you could group people based on gender identity or race or sex, and you speak to that group as opposed to just individuals within a group. Obviously, this has pros and cons. I mean, the pro being that you have power in numbers. So if you belong to the group and then the group has a louder voice than you do as an individual. The con side of that is you sort of give up your own individual voice because the group has a voice you don't, right? Now, the reason I want to talk about that today is because I'm in Toronto and we have what I would consider a very interesting sort of example of how the identity politics works and how it sort of, I believe, collapses on itself over time, inevitably. So what we have in Toronto revolves around the Gay Pride Parade. So it's the LGBT community, and that's where it starts, right? So you have one group, special interest group, that identifies as LGBT, right? Now, as I said, this is not a monolith. This is made up of a diverse group of people. Just like anything, right? There's diversity in women, there's diversity in the black community, there's diversity in the Asian community, there's diversity in any community that we look at. And this is why I believe there becomes a bit of a problem, right? So you have the LGBT community, they're gonna have the Pride Parade. This is a celebration for gay rights and sexual expression or whatever you wanna say. So all of the people presumably in this group are supposed to support this event and this movement. Okay, now, what happens is last year you have a protest by the Black Lives Matter people. Now the reason you have a protest by the Black Lives Matter people is because within this LGBT community, you have the black community, which intersects a little bit, right? So you have some black LGBT people. And those people are making the case that within this LGBT community, we're still the black people. We're still not treated equally, we're not treated fairly, right? So the whole group, again, not a monolith, is sort of making a victim of the other group. Now, this is sort of why I think it becomes a problem, because it trains you to believe that your group is always a victim of something, right? So now the black members of the LGBT community protest and say, we're not treated fairly and we have these demands. Now, here's the next layer of the problem. One of the demands brings in the greater black community and the greater police community. Now, in the police community, you again have an intersection, right? You have some police and you have some LGBT police. You probably also have a third interconnection where you have some black LGBT police officers, right? That exists as well. Okay, so now you have three groups that are at play here. So the LGBT black people, or black community people, the people representing them, say that because the black community, and specifically the black members of the LGBT community, are uncomfortable with the police community, greater police community, they want the police banned from the parade. Now, it's not banned like you can't attend, it's banned like the police force shouldn't be represented, right? Now, a lot of people would call that exclusion and whatever. The truth is, a lot of people are just gonna say, look, the greater police community has a lot of people in it that might be racist, might be homophobic, right? But they kind of get a pass because a bunch of people in uniforms who are police, who belong to the LGBT community, come out and they have a float, and it looks like the Toronto police are not homophobic at all. The Toronto police have a great relationship with the community and stuff like that. So, again, the Black Lives Matter members of the LGBT community feel like that shouldn't be allowed. So they say, we don't want the police, right? Okay. Now, the police community obviously responds to that. And the police community says, well, you're excluding the police, and it's supposed to be about inclusion. So now you have the LGBT community, and LGBT black community, and the LGBT police community, bringing in the larger police community and the larger black community, all to divide the LGBT community, which now has different viewpoints that it's coming from, and there's a conflict, a confrontation. Now, I'm a straight white male, and some of you might not give a crap what my opinion is, but I'll be honest, I feel like every step of the way, it's been kind of petty, right? This is my opinion. I believe this. I believe that there were members of the black community at the at the Pride Parade that saw police and were like, that's politically, that's unacceptable to me. I believe they felt that. I don't believe there was anxiety. I don't believe there was fear. I don't believe that they didn't have any fun. I don't believe it ruined their day. But there is a political point to be made, and they made it, and that's fair enough. When the point was made, I don't believe there's police officers that genuinely feel they can't respect their employers, or they can't, come and have fun at the parade, or that they're being excluded as individuals. I don't believe that. That's what they say. I believe they're hyperbolizing, right? But I do believe there's gay members of the police community. And marching in this parade and having the police community represented in this parade probably makes their life easier in the police force, right? Because the fact that there's homophobia is probably most known by those people, by the police officers that happen to identify as gay. And the ability to come out and identify as gay and have this celebration, probably a great thing for them. So I understand it's a step backwards. At the same time, it would be perfectly reasonable to just say, okay, I'm gonna attend as an individual. As a gay person, by myself, I'm gonna go. You can even go with a bunch of police friends. You just don't represent the police force. You represent yourself, right? So for me, every step along the way, there's an opportunity for someone to turn the other cheek and say, okay, I'm gonna be the bigger person here. But what it comes down to is, I as a black member of the LGBT am black, then gay. Or I as a police officer in the LGBT am a police officer, then gay. So you have all these things. You identify as many things. So which ones do you prioritize, and how do you prioritize them, and who does it put you in conflict with? I feel like this, it just gets to smaller and smaller groups until the truth comes out. You as an individual have your own opinion. It's not like anyone else, right? I was talking to a friend of mine. I said, I don't identify as a straight white cisgendered male. Now I understand the world sees me as that, and my experiences are based on the world seeing me as that, but at no point have I ever felt like I'm speaking for white people, or like my opinion is the same as white people, or if I see a white guy speaking and he's straight, that his opinion is speaking for me. I've never felt that way, myself, right? Again, it's kind of like, my friend said it back to me, it's kind of like ticklish, right? You can't explain what ticklish is to someone who's not ticklish, right? Same thing with things like white privilege and identity politics. You can't really explain it, like how it affects you. You can try, you can express it, but you can't make someone else fully understand it, right? So you could look at me and just be like, yeah, well, you're an oblivious, straight, white, cisgendered male. I don't know. But all I'm saying is when I speak, I feel like I'm speaking for me. And I think that's the only way that I can really do it. I wish everyone else did too. Because the truth is, if the black members of the LGBT community spoke with the police members of the LGBT community, that's where the bridge is built, right? But when the greater black community gets involved and the greater police community gets involved, now we're talking about groups of people, not individuals. And the ones that identify with me, I'm still drawing the line between us so that we can't communicate properly, right? The bridge is there to be built within this group, but then there's outside interference. The other thing I would say is that the gay LGBT community within the police force now wants the government to pull funding from the parade, which is kind of exposing the police, right? Because the truth is, this is about you and your personal feelings, and you're taking it personally. So you're like, the whole gay community shouldn't get money because they exclude not me as an individual, but my police. As I'm police first, and you're excluding that, and that's not fair. So everyone should suffer. That doesn't really sound like appropriate to me either. So again, there's many sides you could fall on, and the reason I think for that is because it's groups fighting with groups, and none of them can even really agree with each other, right? Because inside of a group, you're still a victim of some kind, or not treated fairly, or whatever. So yeah, to me, this is a fascinating example of identity politics and how it works and maybe doesn't work. I'm curious to know what you guys think about identity politics in general and about this issue. Like, is the police association correct? Is it discrimination? Should funding be pulled? Are the Black Lives Matter protesters correct? Like, is it only fair that police don't get this free pass into the LGBT community? Like, what do you guys think? There's again a million angles to come from. I think I've explained mine. Feel free to comment, subscribe, leave a comment below, or you can always hit me on the Twitter @CupOfJoeCanada.